A3C, what up? How's everybody doing? Good, good. Welcome to the Serato Studio space here. We have our new production software called Serato Studio that we want to kind of go through what it does for you. How many DJs are in the house here? Raise their hands. All right, cool. How many producers are here in the house? Raise their hands. All right, cool, cool. How many people who want to get into music production who have never done it before? Raise their hands. Okay, we got a couple. All right. All right, cool. So,
I'm glad you did it so I don't have to.
word. So, first off, my name is OP. I'm the Artist Relations Manager for Serato on the East Coast. Myself and my partner, Derek, who's behind the cameras, we run everything for Serato on the East Coast. And obviously, the esteemed Just Blaze, who's here. Round of applause for my mans.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, Serato as a company is based in New Zealand, but the US is our biggest market. So we'll always try to make sure that we create products that speak to people here using our products, DJing and now into music production. About 2 years ago, we came out with a sample plugin called Serato Sample, which kind of started to change the game in terms of the way that people are able to sample using plugins inside of things like Logic, Ableton, FL Studio, Machine, so on and so forth. Serato Sample ended up being used on a bunch of records that have been out in the market. A$AP Rocky, Nicki Minaj, DJ Khaled, a bunch of other people, production being used with Serato Sample. A lot of people asked when Serato Sample came out if we would ever come out with a standalone that would have that same function, but you would have to use another DAW in order to use Sample because of its features. And so we started coming up with what you see here, Serato Studio. But we wanted to make it a little bit different than other DAWs that are out there, in the sense that we wanted to make it to where if you are DJing, then the workflow for your DJing can go directly into the program using cue points and such, or even using the knobs on your DJ controllers to be able to control everything inside the program, right? So if you're a new producer and you're used to DJing, then you can use your DJ controller or a MIDI controller to be able to control everything inside the program. But if you're a named producer or you've been producing for a long time, such as Just, you will be able to kind of get some ideas out here really quickly and start to build something very fast. Part of the reason why Serato Studio is dope is because it has this thing called pitch and time built inside of it. And pitch and time allows you to be able to time stretch and key shift audio without having any artifacts whatsoever when you do it. So you could take a song that's at like 120 beats per minute and time stretch it down to like 40 beats per minute, and it's gonna sound incredible without losing its key. But if you wanted to switch the key up and make it to a different key, you could do that without, again, having any artifacts in that process. If you try that with other DAWs, you're gonna start to get some degradation in the audio, and it's gonna start to kind of break up a little bit. Serato does it very smoothly. So that's built inside of here for Serato Studio. One of the great things about that being in studio is that when you have multiple samples that you're using, those samples will all key sync and BPM sync all together at the same time without you having to do any extra work. So you throw a sample into it, it's in a certain key and a certain BPM. The next sample that you throw into will automatically match up to that BPM and that key without you having to do extra work, and it sounds incredible. So when we started doing the beta for this, we reached out to Just, because a lot of the products that we do for Serato, we'll talk to Just, we'll talk to people of his caliber to get their feedback on what they think about the product. And he gave us a lot of early feedback at the beginning. Oh, you should add this. This would be good to have some feedback, to change this and so on and so forth. And a lot of those things we were able to kind of drop in and make happen in the beginning. So we thank Just for helping us kind of getting the beginnings of this shaped up to be what it is now. So we're gonna go through 2 demo tracks that Just has done. Part of what this program is that it's a subscription-based product. It goes for $9.99 a month, and every month you get a new sound pack with drums, instruments, samples from different producers and also different sound designers. Just Blaze was the first person to do a sound pack for us when we launched the product. So we have drums from him, audio effects and sounds that he made in his studio that are here for you to be able to use all royalty free. And as a part of that, he also made 2 demo tracks as well, kind of showing what he does with the product. So we're gonna walk through 2 of the tracks. He's gonna kind of break down like some of his thought process of what he was thinking about when he was making the track, and we'll get busy from there. So let's jump into it, Just.
What's up, everybody? So, as OP said, we're going to run through some stuff that was created specifically for Serato Studio by myself. Serato Studio is very straightforward, more of a what you see is what you get approach. And one of the great things about it is if you are a DJ and you're familiar with the Serato DJ workflow, that translates very naturally to the production workflow in Serato Studio. So, you know, if you want to almost treat it like you get the two sides here, instead of having deck one and deck two, you know, you have your arranger over here, and you have, I don't know what you would call it, like your source window on the left side. So as OP mentioned, I did create a bunch of custom drum kits and sound packs for the app. I'm not going to walk through that, but I did use all of my drum sounds and a lot of my own presets for this. So, you know, a lot of people will ask many times, what is your starting point? Like, where does it start from you? Is it the drums? Is it a melody? Is it a vocal? For me, generally, it starts with, to be honest, just inspiration. And that inspiration can be dictated by anything. It could be a sound that I hear randomly in the street. It could be something, a vocal, or something that somebody says that sparks an idea for a vocal. In this case, the inspiration came from finding a sample that I liked, which I will play for you here. You get more volume on it? Right here? So that was a sample that I came across. And one of the great things about Serato Studio is it's just very easy. The same way you set your cue points in Serato DJ, you find a part that you like, it's almost like bookmarking it. You know, you're just setting a cue point. You can do the same thing with these samples. So I started to chop different parts of the, with me, like, as I'm listening to a sample, I'm also kind of starting to arrange it and chop it in my head before I actually even touch a keypad or a keyboard. So I just kept playing it over and over and finding the different parts that I liked, and I came up with these chops here.
And just how easy was it for you to make those chops? Like the speed and the.
It was simple. You know what I mean? It was really just a matter of, like I said, with Serato DJ, the same way you're playing a record, you hear a part you like, you just click on that section of the audio. So it's not the whole tedious thing about like recording a record into the computer, then finding the chop points, cutting them down, exporting them. It was just, cue point, cue point, cue point, cue point, done. So then I came up with an arrangement for them that I liked. Let me see. So I started with this sequence here from the chop. So from there, I found a basic groove. And at that point, I started laying down the drums. For me, the most important part of the beat is the groove. You know, getting your basic melody and your basic drums in sync with each other. From there, you can add all your bells and whistles, your tricks and whatnot. But, you know, in essence, you got to figure out what the meat of the beat is gonna be. There's no better way to say it. So basically, I started coming up with a drum groove that would work with this. Give me a second, because I only have two hands. So you have your basic groove there. With this particular kit, I actually sampled live drums. I have a drum kit in the house. So instead of, one of my main things with this was I wanted to do things that felt organic and natural and not something that you get every day in the sound pack. Most times we get sound packs and it's kind of like different variations of the same 20 sounds. And one of my main things that I said when I was talking to OP about this was anybody can get 808s and tweak them in 2019. I wanted to do something that was a little bit more unique. I also actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the record I did with Drake and Rick Ross called Lord Knows. I actually snuck the drums in from that into this pack as well. So the kick and snare that I'm using are actually the same kick and snare that I use for Lord Knows. Everything else is from a live kit. So from there, I just started to add more elements, percussion-wise, to make the drums move a bit more. So now we're building the groove out a little bit more.
So just a quick question with this.
Yes.
So while you were playing this, did you have these drums quantized, or were you freehand kind of playing them when you were doing this?
Some of the drums are quantized, some are freehand. What I normally try to do is my basic static kick and snare that keep the beat moving, like the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. I generally quantize those. Everything else, I kind of do freehand. Reason for that is I like my stuff to feel a little bit more human or more humanized. Sometimes if things are too quantized, it's like, too robotic. Yes, Mr. Roboto. There's a time and a place for that. Some things call for that. For this particular style of track, I generally try to keep things as freehand as much as possible. So we have this section. The one thing that I felt like it was missing was on the bottom end. There was no bottom yet. So I actually took the sample, copied it to another track, and filtered the high end out, so you get the natural movement of what the sample is doing in the same exact bass. Because it's very hard to actually mirror exactly what a sample is doing, especially if it's not quantized. You might have to work to duplicate that part. Or you can just filter all the high end out of the sample and use the natural bass that's there. And I believe that's what this next track is. So now you have that. So now the sample feels a little bit more fuller, but it feels fuller in a more natural way, as opposed to just a stiff bass line. So what I did next was I wanted to flip the sample so that I could give it a little bit more life. It was dope. It was a little bit on the duller side, but it wasn't dull because of an EQ thing. All the instruments were kind of in the mid-range, and I wanted to give it a little bit more sparkle or a little bit more shine. So I then took that sample and pitched it up using the key shift in Serato Studio rather, just to really give the sample a little bit more of a lift. I don't want to change anything. I just want to lift it up and make it a bit brighter, so you can hear the difference when I pop it in and out. So you hear how the Rhodes just starts to really pop out and bubble a bit more.
That's right.
That's not something you're really going to get with an EQ. That's a pitch shifting thing.
And that key shifting thing, that was literally a click of a button just to be able to switch it up.
Exactly. All I had to do was just go to each sample chop and plus 12, one octave up. And then from there, let me see. I think we had some pianos. Let me see if I can solo it quickly. So I actually detuned the piano slightly just to give it more of a bit of a vintage feel. Also, something that you can easily do with your with your pitch shifting, just to give it a bit more of a vintage sound. And naturally, a lot of times when a band is playing, it's throughout the night of a course of a show or of a performance, somebody's going to probably go slightly out of tune. It's just the nature of live instruments. But sometimes that actually creates magic. I'll give you guys an example. I know, a lot of us know how hard it is, the producers, how hard it is to get strings to sound natural or sound realistic. You can spend $1,000 on a string library. When you play it, it still feels like you're playing a keyboard, right? Pro tip, take each string, like if you're layering 4 or 5 different string patches, detune each one slightly by like -5 plus or +5 on one line, -5, -6 on another. Play them all in unison again, and all of a sudden you'll notice how much more realistic it sounds. Because when you have 20 violinists in an orchestra, none of them are in perfect 440 the entire time. It's a stringed instrument. Something's gonna, warp, bend, whatever, and you're gonna be slightly out of tune. But that's what actually gives the magic, that magic sound of 20, 30 strings playing at once. So I sometimes try to also imitate that with pianos, because ultimately a piano is a string-based instrument.
And the piano sound, the bass sound, the sample, these are all sounds that you found in the program to use.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, everything that you're hearing came from Serato Studio, whether it was a sound that I created for or a sound that was just included in the packs that are given you buy it.
That's right.
So let me just open up the rest of these tracks. I feel like a lot of the rest of it is really just more sprinkles and accent stuff. So now you have a nice basic groove. One of the other great things about Serato Studio, which I actually appreciated, was doing song arrangements was actually very simple in terms of intro, outro, B section, verse, hook, whatever. It was just a matter of making different arrangements, copying them over, and then all arranging them right here. So if you see I have my intro, section A, B, C, D, F, and what have you. And it was really easy to just say, okay, I like this variation. Make it a what do you call it? Not segments. What do you call them? Scenes.
Scenes.
Right. Just making scenes. So at that point, I just basically did a quick 5 or 6 different variations. But yeah, it was just I had the intro. Set that up. I said, okay, now let's bring the drums in. And it's mostly, like I said, just different variations of that same initial groove, but I wanted to, at one point, change it up. And that's where the last part of the sample came into play. So I decided to use that just as a bridge section, and I'll play that. Actually, we'll go out of this part into there. Fail. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, round of applause. So let's talk about, you have these scenes, but now we need to take this into arrangement to kind of arrange it into a song. So
Right.
what you see on the screen right now is we have the two decks, the left deck and the right deck. The left deck is going to be where all your content's going to be, so your drum deck, your sample deck, instrument deck, plug-in deck, right? On the right side, like he was talking about before, sequencing all those decks. At the bottom here, we have the library where all the libraries at, both for your drum samples, your audio samples, your instrument samples, your plugins if you want to use your VSTs and audio units plugins, and you also have effects that we have from Serato inside of it. But when you look to the right of the screen over here, it says Song View, and when you click this, this now will get you into your arrangement view, right? So for just to actually turn this into a song, he has all these scenes, but he's to actually arrange it. He can literally click each one of the scenes and drag them down into the arrangement view. Super simple. So literally one part, drag down, second part, drag down, third part, and arrange it in the way that he wants to. And then when he goes back to play it from down here in the arrangement view, you'll start to see that the song will start to actually build out the audio file as it's playing.
Yeah, so if you look like right here, I mean, it's already halfway rendered, but when I hit play, it's actually drawing the audio out from the record, or from the sequence rather.
And this is the master view that you see inside of Serato when you're DJing. So this is your full waveform view. And this is incredible because normally most producers who want to kind of see what their waveform is going to look like will have to bounce the song out, drop it into Serato, look at the waveforms, see if they look right kind of feel. Maybe it's not loud enough, maybe it's too soft, whatever the case may be. Go back into their previous DAW, make the adjustment, bounce it out again, look at the waveform over and over and over. This gives you real-time view of what the waveform looks like, that when you bounce this out, this is exactly what it's gonna look like when you go to play. So it takes a big step out in terms of you being able to make sure that your song's gonna sound right, look right, and feel right here in the master section.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's literally just that simple. He made a bunch of parts, obviously Just Blaze, so it's gonna sound amazing. Parts, bringing them down into the arrangement view. He has a song, he bounces it out. You guys are listening to it because he's now made a masterpiece that you can rock with. So pretty dope what he's done with this first demo beat that he did with Serato Studio. So we'll jump into the second one now in terms of what he did. He made 2 demos that are part of his sound pack that you can download. Again, when you get Serato Studio, you'll get his sound pack. And when you get the sound pack, drums, instrument sounds, effects, and also these 2 demo tracks. You can actually see this live inside of Serato Studio when you're playing with it to see how he kind of built and structured the track to work with. Yeah, so this is the second track that he's made inside of Serato Studio. Again, the sounds that he has here are the sounds that are inside the program. So he didn't use any external VSTs or samples. Everything he found inside the program to be able to use. And being able to chop them up kind of in a very similar way. I believe with this one, you start off with the sample first and then got the drums on later, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so like, aside from just getting like drum sounds, patches, and instruments, you also at Serato Studio get a very wide range of actual audio loops that you can then just take and chop up like regular songs. That's one of the things that I loved about it most, because it's like when you buy it, you automatically get a crazy library of things that you can sample and make your own. So this was another sample that I came across from one of these Serato Studio packs. So I started with that, and one of the thing that caught me about this was that. So I just kept playing around. Like with this particular one, I heard pieces that I liked, but I didn't arrange them in my head ahead of time like I normally do. I kind of just spread out chops that I liked and started playing with them. And then I came across this just. And I think that's what I started with. Let's see. So this one, I completely did all the music first and then went to the drums. All right, let's get to the actual beat.
And you'll notice that as the notes are playing, the audio is actually rendering in the sequence section when it's not open. So he can actually see what the audio looks like as it's going through playing MIDI. It starts to render the audio in that section over there.
There's a lot more I thought. This one I actually used a choir on. Yes.
And that was one of your samples, right?
Yeah, I actually created a bunch of choir runs and patches. I think I actually created this one specifically for this beat. Obviously, you can take it and do whatever you want to do with it, but I made that choir sequence just for this. So, yeah, from then, I came up with all the music after, or initially, and then I kind of figured out the drums after the fact, which is a little backwards for me. I normally find the sample, then hit the drums. But with this one, my focus was really making the music as dark. It felt like an old Mobb Deep record.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was
Havoc.
trying to like capture that like 96, 97. Just Mobb Deep always felt like it was either snowing or raining. If that makes sense. Like you don't listen to Mobb Deep in the summer on the beach.
Nah,
no
smiles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's like there's nothing happy about it.
Nah.
And as I was chopping the sample up, I started to get that feeling. So I created all the music first, and then went back and added the drums. I wish Prodigy was still here. I would have sent it to him right away. But yeah, that was pretty much the science behind that one. A bit more straightforward. Not every not every track is gonna be as elaborate, and not every track needs to be as elaborate. Sometimes it's just about finding the right groove, finding that right, the right sound. Like I probably spent, I actually, even though the other one was more elaborate, I probably spent more time on this one because I had a clear focus on trying to capture a certain essence. Whereas with the other one, I was kind of just having fun and doing me.
So one of the things that when we sat down and talked at your studio that you said you were really impressed by was the fact that you could key change the whole song if you needed to make it fit, whether it be working for an artist or you had to get something into a certain key for a certain person to play and so on and so forth. And it was able to do it without changing the drums.
Yeah, no, that's great because, like, say for example, like when I use, like if I use Logic, and I want to tune it, I want to like change the key of the record, I can do that, but I'm also changing the tempo. You know what I mean? Or you do it where you're not changing the tempo, but then the pitch, like your drums and everything will change as well. With this, the way you guys have designated drum tracks and have engineered it so that the drums don't change, we can change the key of the song. Like the singer might not be able to sing in that particular key that you have. Not a problem. Change the key of the song, the drums and everything, all the percussion still stay the same. That was genius. That was definitely genius. Hold on a second. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's here, right? So yeah, I mean, it really allows you, if you get an octave up and an octave down, at that point, it's no problem to find the key that fits, what you're looking for. And the fact that in some cases, I'm not gonna try it now because I don't know if it will work with this, but you can even switch your chords from minor to major. Is crazy because you can actually take something that felt very dark and all of a sudden make it happy just by changing it to major chords or vice versa. That's a great mood changer, a mood builder. A lot of times when we're making records and writing songs, what people sometimes lose sight of is the fact that we're actually creating moods. There's a reason why certain songs make you happy, sad, aggressive, triumphant. They're all delivering a feeling, you know what I mean? And the more options you have to quickly change chords in a record, the quicker and easier it is to change the mood of a song.
That's right. And all the samples that you were using in here were all in different BPMs and also in different keys, right? So when you threw them into into Serato Studio, all those samples were able to lock into that same BPM and then also lock into that same key at the same time. So you didn't have to sit there and try to manipulate each one of them to come together.
Right. Yeah. No, it was it took a little bit of legwork, but the fact that you guys have the playing in key and the fact that you can take all the samples and just automatically change the key or change them individually, because sometimes you might want to change them individually. The fact that you can do all that at the touch of a button or a click of a mouse without having to go through an elaborate process is amazing.
So you said it before, which I don't necessarily agree with. You say that you're not the best keyboard player, but you get busy. So there's a feature with the instruments called playing key. And what playing key does is that it tries to force the notes that you have on your keyboard to match the key of your session. So if you're not a traditional keyboard player and can't play chromatically, it's going to force the notes on your keyboard when you play them to play in the key of the session. So you'll never kind of be out of key. You'll always kind of be in time to what's happening. Yeah, he'll demonstrate something real quick.
So what I'll do is I'll find the sample and just the piano track. Let's see. Hold on a minute. So now let's find that sample. Oh, wait. you notice what it's doing is it's skipping all the bad notes on its own. All I have to do is just sit here and pretend I'm Stevie Wonder. That's pretty much it. You know, it's a simple idea, but the fact that that you can do it with that ease. Like there's times where I need to call a keyboard player. I can't always do that. 4 in the morning, and I'm sitting at home, and I had this idea when I get out of my head. It's something that may traditionally be too complicated for me to play. Now I can just go to play in key, and get to it. You know.
Dope. So let's talk about. Let's kind of build up with a new session. Hold on one second.
Who's trying to airdrop me? Come on. Boo.
Let's give a big round of applause to Just Blaze. Thank you so much for being down with us, brother. We appreciate you very much. Absolutely. Stay around. Again, come get a card if you want to get that free trial. And we're here all day for the rest of today and then also tomorrow as well. Serato.com. Go get Serato Studio. This is going to change your life for music production. Thank you guys so much. God bless you and peace.